How you doing? Good to see you.
See you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, one time you went to my brother for for some reason I didn't wake up for it and forgot. So this is the first time.
It's great.
So great. I still like the
That's okay. Usually it's freezing like this and then, something strapless or whatever. The shoulders.
Does everyone hear me? Well, welcome everybody.
Good morning.
Welcome on this frigid, cold day. I'm very impressed for everybody that came in on this weather. Happy to have you, happy you guys to be a part of this service. Definitely happy to have Elzia, and I learned about his name. Hopefully you guys will learn about that as well. So let's do a little housekeeping, the thing. What's the one thing housekeeping we might want to do all in this oneness moment together? You know those little communication devices? Yeah, they have like buttons and doing all kinds of stuff. Would we mind just take a moment to either turn on vibrate or silent or do not disturb or maybe ship it UPS service or this, whatever your preference is. If you wouldn't mind doing that, that would be great. And so we want to also acknowledge that this is a indigenous land, the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Ute peoples, and it's important for us to name. Their legacy matters because this was their sacred ground, and it's made more holy for Althea because of it. So to ensure that this land acknowledgement is more than a statement only, Althea does look for opportunities to be impactful partners and allies for indigenous communities. Our building is home to 2 nonprofit organizations that impact these communities in number, and they are Spirit of the Sun and Sisters of Color United in Education, whose work through activism, programming, and education is very powerful. So I encourage you guys to research that and become involved in any way that you feel inspired. And so we also want to acknowledge that we are growing in diversity at Althea, and we have a little ways to go. We have been a place where most people are white and nowadays skew to an older demographic. We do have a strong LGBTQ plus membership, and there's so much more we can do to become even more welcome and inclusive. Institutional racism is real, implicit and unconscious biases are real, as is the lived experience of our neighbors of color, people with diverse abilities, and other groups that don't have the same privileges in our culture. So we just ask for everyone's help and feedback to get us to a place of deep belonging for everyone. And next, we want to welcome any new folks today. If you are here for the first time, would you mind raising your hand? And then ushers, would you mind bringing them some flowers? We just want to welcome you. And just, keep those hands raised. And then we're going to bring you up on stage. It's going to be great. You didn't know that part. But you guys, as newcomers, after service, we do have free lunch for you all. I definitely encourage you to stay for a lunch, really get to know our community, and it's just yummy, yummy food, if nothing else. So newcomers, that will be free for you for your first time. Everybody get a flower.
Right.
So we really welcome newcomers.
Anywhere. Anybody.
Okay. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Catherine for our opening prayer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll just tell you what I wrote. Dear sweet God, it seems my prayer is always the same. My prayer is that our hearts are open to you without filter. But God, our lives are complicated. I don't need to sound whiny, but there's physical pain, there's emotional pain, we have word overwhelm, there's exhaustion and muddle. So please, help us to clear the filter. We show up to this precious oasis week after week to recharge. We crave to experience you more deeply. Can we please inhale awareness of you with each breath we take? That surely would clear the filter. My hope is that we leave here today overflowing with your love. Enough that it spills out from us and splashes everybody all week long. And then we'll come back next week for more and recharge again. Thank you for all of it. Amen.
That was so beautiful. I'm piggybacking on that letter you wrote. So beautiful. Okay, please stand as you're able and join me in saying Althea's statement of being, and then we're going to sing a little song together. God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one is all, is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. We are individualized expressions of God, and are ever one of His perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. Okay, we're going to sing a little ditty. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I wanted to introduce our featured musician, Matthew Quigley. He is a local musician who's currently a chef and yoga instructor, and I think some of us already know him, and we definitely love his food and his energy here at Althea. He's been singing and playing guitar since he was 10, and Matthew is currently working on a spiritual album of 22 songs dedicated to universal love and peace. Sounds like an awesome album that we should all be listening to. The album is being released one song at a time, so currently 3 songs are available all online music application. In addition, he plays the songs, which he calls songs of devotion, during his yoga nidra classes at Althea, or what he likes to call yoga with pillows.
So I always like to take this opportunity to thank a lot of love coming up. Thank you. I want to thank those that I work with. As a chef, yoga guide, and musician, the first I want to thank the ladies that created this church 5 years ago. Fanny, Melinda, Althea, Daniela. Without them, this wouldn't be here. I also want to thank Sarma. And oh yeah, please hold your applause till the end. She's the volunteer coordinator and makes a lot of this happen. I want to thank Rick, who plays the piano and coordinates everything here, all the beautiful events and offerings. Thank you, Rick. And the other Rick, who he brings people into the kitchen for prayers, to pray over the food in the food area. I want to thank Daryl, the caretaker of this beautiful building, makes it everything immaculate. Jason, for making everyone sound so good up here. Thank you, and Anna, who runs the beautiful song, runs the light, the spotlight. I want to thank Chef Carrie, who's doing beef stew today. Felt really good, yeah. And who helps out in the kitchen, Peter. He's on the couch in the back. He's here every week, and he helps with the food, and it's a blessing. Candy, I think she's in the kitchen right now, but she helps every Sunday. Sam, he runs the kids' corner, and he helps in the kitchen. Thank you very much. Serona, she helps set up things. Barbara, who comes in and helps with the kitchen, and the other Barbara I got to meet. She does the altar in the front, and if you have anything that needs to be blessed, it's a beautiful altar, and she'll tell you about it. And for all those who are named and not named, past and present, who have graced these walls with their care and love, we send you blessings. That's my prayer. So this song, if you can get to it, it's you'll hear a word, Shakti, within the song. And Shakti, she is even though she is the divine feminine in Hindu, and this song is for her. Run your hands along the stone. Feel the energy running through your bones. Your touch heals my soul. When you rain down when you rain down looking for a sign. If you search and you might find, she only speaks in the divine. When you get quiet, you get Shakti on your mind. When you get quiet, you can get Shakti on your mind. See the crystals glowing in your eyes. Eat the food from your hands. Hear the care in the words that you speak, and breathe the air that you breathe. Breathe the air that you breathe. I was lost, and you gave me your light. I was sad, and you took me by the hand. I was falling, and you gave me wings to fly. I was blind, and you taught me how to see. Taught me how to see. Dance yourself through the tall, tall grass. Smell the roses blooming in the garden. Watch the ocean curl fingers through the sand. Listen to the wind blowing through the cave. Listen to the wind blowing through the cave. Now you're looking for a sign. If you search and you might find. She only speaks in the divine. When you get right, you can get shot in your mind. When you get right, you can get shot in your mind. Run your hands along the stone. Feel the energy running through your bones. Your touch, it heals my soul. When you rain down your love. When you rain down your love. And I was lost, and you gave me your life. I was sad, and you took me by the hand. I was falling, and you gave me wings to fly. I was blind, and you taught me how to see. Taught me how to see. I see golden sunsets, silent twilight, blue skies. I run on for days, sober in my hands, and rushing rivers, and the trees, they're trying to teach us how to live. It's all around. When you stop and breathe, it's all around. It's all around. When you stop and breathe, it's all around.
That was beautiful. So I introduce our featured speaker, Reverend Elzia Sekou, and he is the senior minister at CSL Denver and a current member of CSL Ministerial Council. Professionally, Reverend Elzia serves as the lead application engineer at LTCI Partners, LLC, NFP. You guys are going to get quizzed on those acronyms later, so please make them note of them. He focuses on IT strategy, process improvements, and system transformation. Additionally, Reverend Elzia serves on NFP's Diversity, Equality, Inclusion, and Belonging Advisory Board, and as the co-leader of Black Professionals Business Resource Group. He is a former college professor, past chair of Cultural Diversity and Human Relations Commission for the city of Lakewood, Colorado, a special focus young adult minister at Mile High Church, and was a former Islamic imam, pardon me if I pronounced that wrong. He is an avid student of the ancient wisdom traditions, focusing on ancient Egypt, Islam, and the Tao. He is a strong advocate for community building and has been active in servicing the community by sitting on several boards, participating as a member of the Denver Juvenile Drug Board, and conducting rites of passage programs. He's a husband, he's a father, a grandfather, and a great-grandfather. He has lived in 5 states and Australia, giving him a unique perspective on relationship building and cultural differences. His motto is, don't go where there is a path, go where there is no path, and leave a trail. Let's give a warm welcome for Reverend Elzia.
Good morning. I got my flower. So, I don't know if you see me with my flower. You have to give me a hug, but I'll take one hug real good. I am so glad to be here. And as you always say, some housekeeping, right? There's always housekeeping. So I'm going to give everyone the housekeeping on my name, right? Because I know I'm going to give you the housekeeping on it. So this should be easy for all Coloradans because my name, Elzia, is the same as the state symbol of New Mexico. So if you're familiar with the state symbol of New Mexico, it is the Zia, Z-I-A symbol. There's the Zia Pueblo, and it's everything New Mexico. And the name itself, just for a little quick history lesson, goes all the way back to ancient Egypt. There was an ancient god in ancient Egypt called Sia, S-I-A, and you may have heard of a book called the Hosea, divine utterance or divine inspiration. And so Sia was an ancient god in Egypt for divine insight. And so I'm Elzia the third, technically. Fourth, my father was first, and my grandfather was the real first. So we go all the way back to 1873 when my grandfather was born. So I was curious about the name, so I had to go do the research. I mean, that's what y'all. But, so now we've got the housekeeping out of the way. I want to thank you for having me here today. I am honored that so many people came out in this frigid January, untraditional type of weather that we have. Although everyone thinks we do, but we don't. This is not traditional for Colorado. But I'm glad to be here. And so as we evolve into the topic that I've selected for today, transformation of the cave. Transformation of the cave. You know, throughout history, the cave has represented many mythical and mystical symbols. Everything from the unconscious to the womb of creation to a place where spirits and angels and the dead, all the way to a place of refuge, healing, and communication with the divine. And so when we look at all of these stories, and just like those different symbols, the idea and the metaphor of the cave has taken many different paths. Right? And as metaphysicians, we understand that because we understand that there's a wholeness in the universe. And as some like to say, there's this 360-degree circle that there's 360 different points on the circle, which gives you a different perspective, a different way of looking at things, and a different way of cultivating life. Now, when we think about the cave, when we look at it throughout history, it has been used by prophets, right? There's a verse in Kings of Prophet Elijah going into the cave and having communion with the divine. In the Quran, there is a chapter or the whole story, actually, of Islam, where Prophet Muhammad goes into the cave for a long period of time and he communes with God and he receives the first revelation of the Quran. There's also the story of, it's both in the Quran and in Ephesians, a city right outside of Turkey about the children in the cave, where they go into a cave, they're being persecuted, they go into a cave because they are true believers in the one God, And they go and they seek refuge and spend 20 years in the cave and come out. There's also, similar to the cave, the old Rip Van Winkle story, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. Rip goes up, goes to sleep, and comes back, and he's like, oh my goodness, what is going on? King George was on the picture when he left, and George Washington was on the picture when he came back, and he was like, oh, I have been in the time warp. But one of the most probably prolific stories about the cave is Plato's story of the cave. It's Plato's story of the cave. And if you remember that story, Plato talks about a group of people, a community, a person. It fits any motif. So wherever you think you are, you've been in that cave. And it talks about how their perception of life had been altered. Their way of moving around and things had not been seen in the true light. And so what we wind up having is this great story, this great metaphor for looking at life. Now, I'm sure all of you can identify with the great cave of the pandemic that we are now beginning to step out of and try to find our way. And so when we do that, we look at this idea of what did that do for us? How did we, in some cases, get drawn through it? In some cases, we walked through it. In some cases, we hid through it. But the one good thing is, we're now on the other side of it, kind of sort of. I have to say that kind of sort of tongue in cheek because life is always evolving. We're always moving towards the next great yet to be. And so when we look at the cave that we've just come out of, and we look at it through history, we can see each part of those different stories that I just told about seeking refuge or being trapped or stepping into this place where I can get solace. And so now we're at the point where which one of the people in the cave of Plato are you trying to be? Or do you want to be? Or maybe you just, through circumstances, might find yourself being one of the characters, right? Because if you remember the story goes like this. There are inmates in a cave, and there's a big opening in the cave, and there are things going on outside the cave, and they see shadows, and they see all types of shadows and things. And then one day, one of the inmates, as they say in the story, escapes. Goes outside the cave, and at first, blinded by the lights, can't, if you go out of dark into a lit room and you can't see, you gotta adjust, and he gets all adjusted, and he looks around and he says, boy, this is nothing like the story we keep telling ourselves in the cave. In the cave, we see one-dimensional, flat, unfeatured things. Now that I'm in the light, I see 3D and color and ups and downs and lefts and rights. And so this inmate who was previously in the cave goes outside and just is in amazement. And then he has to bring an idea. Let me go and inform the rest of my cave mates, if you will, so I can get them to come out here and experience life more abundantly, more full. Goes back, knocks on the cave door, proverbial door, goes in and says, hey, our life, our way of living that we have been accustomed to, that we built a whole story, a whole mythology, a whole belief system off of, is only 1/10 of the 360-degree circle. Y'all need to come out. There's a whole other world on the other side of this cave. But they are so afraid, they are so addicted, so attached to their current way of living, their current belief systems, that they can't move beyond that. Consequently, they stay in the cave. And they live a very limited, a very unfulfilling life. So now the question for us, as we move beyond the cave of the pandemic, what inmate of the cave, if you will, are you going to be? Are you going to be the one who denies that there's something beyond the cave? Or are you going to be someone who's brave enough to step outside? Matthew in the song, I love that about the Shakti, about the energy of the cave, the energy of the stone, right? The energy of the mountain. And in Colorado, we understand the energy of the mountain probably as well or better than anyone in the world, right? With our 14 peaks, right? So we begin to look at the story now in a different light. It's not just a mythical story anymore. It's not just a story to teach lessons. It's our life. It's who we are and what we decide to do. And so when we have this opportunity to move beyond the cave, and use the cave as this metaphor that is often used for, which is the womb, right? The womb of creation, the place of re-emergence, a place of rebirth. When we are able to step into that, now we got a new opportunity. We can play a different song, we can do a different dance, and we don't have to live in limitation. How many of you have been, you don't have to raise your hand, I don't have to put up spot, but how many of you have been living in limitation? How many of you have been just so afraid to move beyond the belief system that we've cultivated over the last few years? And some of us have been creeping in longer than that. That's a milestone. To where we will not take chances. Where we will not, sad to say, we won't say hi to the person across the street. They might ask for something. They might have something. They might need something. I'm just going to hold my head down, or I'm going to look at the sky like an angel. I'm just going to keep walking. Just like being in a cave. You know, your vision of the cave is kind of obscure. Right? But that's where we are today. This is the idea of the transformation of the cave. Because that cave has the possibility to change our lives. It has a possibility for us to begin to be introspective, right? To be retrospective, so that we can begin to look at life the way it was created. In a 360-degree wholeness. And contrary to popular belief that it's a circle, it's actually a spiral. When that first circle or the revolution completes, it's 1 millimeter above the other one. And so there's this vibration that goes around the circle that every time you hit the same point, when I hit the 0 point here, I go around. I'm at 0 again, but I'm a little higher. I'm at 0.0, and now I'm at 0.1. There's a different vantage point. There's a different way of looking. There's a different energy, as Matthew sung about. There's a different Shakti that is moving through our lives. And so we begin to say, how do we want to interact? How do we want to engage this energy? And so as we seek this rebirth and this new way of life, this new approach, the question becomes, which is always the proverbial question, right? How do we do that? You know, all this is good information, and it sounds plausible, and it looks, you know, like it could do something. But the question becomes, how do we do it? How do we move beyond the cave of perceptions and all these things that may or may not hold us back? So I want to give you 3 points that speak to that. The first thing is, just imagine this cave is like a cocoon for a butterfly. And you all know the story about the butterfly, one of my favorite stories. It starts out on a caterpillar, and it just takes in all kinds of food, information, same thing, and then it goes into a chrysalis. And when it's in that chrysalis, it goes through a transformation. It dissolves all of its cells and innards, and I was trying not to say something gross. But it dissolves itself into this chrysalis. And it becomes something absolutely new. The cells reform into a different thing, literally. You can look it up. They dissolve into a goo and then they reform into a butterfly. So something that was trapped and clinging heavily to the earth is now bound to be free in air and space. So when we look at this cave, that's the process that we're going through when we go through this transformation, the one that we've just went through. Some of us are realizing our butterflyness, if you will, right? And of course, the process of coming out of that cocoon, if you will, takes every butterfly, every moth, everything that goes through that differently. Of course, you know the little story about little Johnny, right? There's always a little Johnny story, right? So little Johnny's going to school. He's walking and he's amazed. He sees this chrysalis and he sees this butterfly trying to get out. He's flapping. He sees the thing and he's late for school because he's got mesmerized by the butterfly. And he sits there and eventually the butterfly, after some turmoil and just strife, he flies out. Johnny's amazed. He goes to school and gets his demerits because he's late. Comes back the next day going to school and he sees the same thing for another butterfly. But now Johnny, he's a smart one. He takes his little penknife out and he cuts the cocoon, thinking he's helping the butterfly. And the butterfly pops out and it immediately makes its transition. What little Johnny didn't know was that the struggle that the butterfly goes through to come out of the cocoon is a necessary process of the transformation. That struggling and all of the movements that it takes to come out of the cocoon is the process that strengthens the wings of the butterfly so that it can fly. And so although the process looks kind of arduous and painful, it's a necessary process to go through as we begin to transform our lives. So the first thing that we have to think about is in the cave is the shadows and the unconscious. See, Johnny had a little shadow, if you will. He was a little unconscious about the complete process of life. So we have to be aware that there are shadow sides, and as we know, if there are any youngians in the audience, we understand what the shadow is, and it can take many different forms. We even know shadow from being outside and the sun is shining, and when the shadow is cold. There's an unconscious piece there that we have to begin to step out of the cave. We have to start looking at things in flat, one-dimensional. Because life is 360-degree, multi-dimensional. So when we're able to do that, it may feel like we're trapped, but we're not. It's the process. It's the process. And what we really struggle with, and we have to ask ourselves, what questions and assumptions are you dealing with? What questions are you afraid to ask? What questions have you asked, you got the answer, and you're scared to move on it? And then what assumptions are you making about the information, about the environment, about the people, about life itself? You know, I'm not even going to say it, but y'all know the saying about assumptions, right? Everybody knows that saying, so I don't even have to say it. I'm just going to say assumptions, right? And we can leave that there, right? So once we can step outside the shadows and this unconscious stuff, the second thing that we need to do is we need to look at the images, the visions, and the reflections that we are encountering in our lives. Now, those images are both ways. The ones that we're projecting and the ones that we are seeing because of our belief system, because of our assumptions, because of the questions we are afraid to ask. This is what the cave produces. It gives you these opportunities. The question is, are we going to take them? Are we going to be brave enough to take it? And so when we look at this vision, we think about this vision of the butterfly and the caterpillar. That's a vision to think about the transformation from a caterpillar to a butterfly. We can teach on that story alone for the rest of our time here, and I mean on the planet Earth, and never be done. So what is that? What is that about? And that comes with courage. It comes with courage to have a vision. It comes with courage to sometimes sit down and reflect about what I've done on either the left side or the right side. We're not going to put a judgment on this. That's on one side or the other. I think about a couple of weeks ago, we celebrated Dr. King's birthday. And everyone is in full aware of his last speech that he spoke just before his assassination. But there was a speech on March 31st, 4 days before that, called Remaining Awake. If you've never listened to it, it's on, you can get it on YouTube, on the internet. Go and listen to that speech. Remaining Awake, March 31st. And ironically, in that speech, he speaks about none other than Rip Van Winkle. And he talks about how Rip goes up and comes down and everything has changed. His perceptions, his vision, his image of what life was is no longer. And he can no longer operate from that vantage point when clearly King George is gone and George Washington is on the scene. And that's where we are now. I hear often people saying, I can't wait till things get back to the way they used to be. That ain't ever going to happen. That is gone. It is now time to cast a new vision, to have a new transformation, to see life fully outside of the cave, so that we can begin to create a life that works for all. And so once we've understood this thing about shadows and the unconscious, and we're able to deal with images and re-images and visions, the last thing that we need to do is reemerge. We have to declare who we are now. Not yesterday, not even too far in the future. Because we know it's changing, and what we think the future might be, although Dick Tracy had it right, he told me I could talk on the watch and see people, and, Dick Tracy had it right? He was able to pull he got out of the cave early, is what Dick did. He got out and saw things fully, and he came back and said, all right, let me create one of these. But that's what we have to do. We have to begin to reimagine ourselves. Understand that the turmoil that we go through is to make us strong. As the verse says, it has come to pass. It has not come to stay. Whatever it is. So when we can embrace that, we can do this reemergence. We can do this reemergence. And so when we are involved in this reemergence, and as I get ready to close, there's two things that we have to keep in mind. The first one is, do you dare to escape the cave? Some people are comfortable in their one-dimensional world and their old beliefs, whether they work, they only work 60% of the time, but they get happy with 60. 60 is good with me. But are you willing to get 65? How about 75? How about 80? Right? Are you willing to step beyond the boundaries that we have placed on ourselves? By the cave of the pandemic, by the cave of our mind, by the cave of society? Will I use it as a place of prison, or will I use it as a place of refuge to commune with the divine? to understand what's coming, and to be involved. And then the last thing is, this is the real one, and this one goes through all cultures. The ultimate symbol of transformation. Are you able, or let me put it this way, are you ready, willing, and able to stand in the fire? Are you willing to stand in the fire? Because we know fire is the ultimate transformer on this planet. It transforms everything, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. There's a vestige of fire that goes with each one of those planes of life. So when we do that, when we're able to stand in the fire, that means taking criticism sometimes, maybe sometimes being critical of ourselves. But when we do that, then we can step into this new kingdom, this re-emergence of God in wholeness, in oneness, in completeness, knowing that it's ever-changing. We're in the process of becoming. And when we can accept that, we can look at the cave not as some scary place, not as some place where there's some spooky things going on. We can look at the cave as a refuge, as a place to go in and reform and to drop all the things that we no longer need and step forth, re-emerged as a child of the divine. One that's imbued with the Spirit of the Most High. And so as I close, let's always remember to ask the questions. Always remember to ask the questions and drop your assumptions sometimes. Because everybody knows about assumptions. Step outside your comfort zone. Step outside your comfort zone because that's where the sweet stuff is. If you just eat eggs all day, you don't have no turkey, you don't have no orange juice, that's going to get pretty boring. Step outside your comfort zone. Challenge yourself. And when you can do that, you will remember with every step you take that there are infinite possibilities in the universe. Because I talked about the circle of 360 degrees. We didn't break any fractions down in that 360. We talk about whole numbers, right? And anyone that knows math, with the fraction, we can take the first degree and break that down into infinite numbers. And if we break degree 1 down into infinite, I don't even want to think about 360. Those are the infinite possibilities we have when we take this opportunity to be transformed in the cave. And so with that, I'll leave you with this affirmation for the week to think about, to contemplate, to embody this idea. I trust the process, and I'm ready for transformation. I trust the process, and I'm ready for transformation. So with that, I leave you, hopefully we've all been activated inside. That glue is making its job right now. For each and every one of us. And the next thing we know, we're going to have wings and we're going to be flying. We're going to be moving in a way of life that works for everything. Not everybody, but everything. That means the plants, the trees, the dogs, the mountains, the sky, the water. Because we're all built and live in this one universe. Thank you.
Thank you, Elzia. That was a beautiful, powerful message. Didn't begin to the housekeeping. Your message was so blissful. Elzia. So this song, I like to end my offering, my yoga offering with, and it's a song of forgiveness, and I just, I guess, just in this world, when we're re-emerging from this cocoon, I just hope that we take our energy, not use it to judge other people and have this energy towards them of maybe hate, maybe judgment, but just forgiving everyone, and we all have our own path to walk, and so I'd like to use this song. Lovers of truth, rise up. Rise up tonight. We have seen, and we have seen enough of this world. Don't stop at the entrance. Even though the garden's overflowing, go and see the garden ascend. From our head to our toes, we are crooked bows, but we can fly. We can fly straight as an arrow. Let us bow to the ocean. Let us pray to the sea. Let us ride out on the water to an island that's made of freedom. Let us travel to the heart of the darkness and then taste the salt in our tears. Let us always change our expression from sadness to cheer when we get a song of forgiveness. Song of forgiveness. And our hearts beat fast. We tremble like leaves when we fall, but we can be an unmovable mountain. Let us be the birds of paradise, flying down to drink sweet water. Let us be always in the moment. Let us be the rain that falls on leaky roofs. Let us be the lion's roar. We can be calm, and we can can be. Let us bow to the ocean. Let us pray to the sea. Let us ride out on blue water to an island that's made of freedom. Let us travel to the heart of the darkness and then taste salt in our tears. Let our songs change our expression from sadness to joy. When we hear the song of forgiveness, the song of
On a cloudy and cold day, much like this last week, I was outside driving and I was thinking about caves. And it occurred to me that that kind of day, this kind of day that's so cloudy and cold, is just, it's a cave for me. It just brings up negative and cold and depressing feelings very often. I think I have sad, seasonal affective disorder. And then I was thinking, well, how can I reframe all that? How can I turn this way I've been thinking of cloudy days into something that could be a gift, that could be a transforming experience and have transformative properties. So when I got home, I looked up poetry, and I found Phil Ellsworth, and immediately his poetry resonated with me, and I felt like, oh, right there's some ways I can rethink about this being such a heavy thing for me. And his poetry is sort of, in ways, it's a way out or a way through, really, to come out to see that gift. So I chose 3 poems by Phil Ellsworth, and the last one reminds me why I love living in Colorado. So here they are. The color gray. Dawn breaks, another cloudy day, with mist and fog, all shades of gray. My inner weather is the same, inside or outside, either way, it's just a melancholy day. Which weather is to blame? I'll play myself a happy air to drive the mist and fog away and make a melancholy day, if not sunny, just as fair. A funny thing, the color gray. Some light gets in, some goes away. A little warmth to keep the fire, a little light to show the way. Melancholy air. When every breath is melancholy air, I look inside and ask my soul to sing some song it knows, some long forgotten thing remembered by the Holy Spirit's there. A song that somehow hid itself away, or one that someone left there on the chance that in its resurrection also they themselves might rise again to sing and dance. And then my spirit sings, not mine alone, but also those to whom my soul belongs. And time and cares are for the moment gone, and if I listen, I hear only song. September flowers. The sun comes up, and hope arises with it, like a flower that through the night in darkness lay. The sunlight makes the colors in my spirit, and says again that darkness will not stay. When melancholy tries to fill my hours, and sadness wants to steal my soul away, how will they cope with you, September flowers? How can they win against this golden day?
All right, guys, so now it's time for offering. And we know giving is receiving, so that's the good news. So, ushers, you guys know the drill here. Come on forward and pass those baskets out. And so, ways to give to Althea. So, thank you for our donors who have set up recurring weekly or monthly donations. You guys can also donate on the Althea website, or if you look on the back of your program, there's a QR scan code. You can just zap that. Or we have our lovely dip jar in the back. It's illuminated back there, and we want you to dip until your heart is content, whatever that might be for you. And that's right there. So many different ways to offer our offerings here in Althea. So join me and let us affirm together. The universe provides all that I need and all that I give. Give me joy, I share my prosperity, planting seeds for a world and helping manifest. And so it is. Amen. Thank you, Ashmi. Okay, now we're going to segue into the prayers of the people. And just a friendly reminder, we have our wonderful prayer partners available. Today, Suzanne, where are you? Hi, Suzanne. And she'll be back in the historic library after service. Is that great? Wonderful. But right now, we're going to open it up. If anyone needs to say something on their heart for a prayer, we are going to open that up. Just raise your hand.
Yes, I would like us to say a prayer for the family of, I think his name is Elijah. No, it's Tired, yes, in Memphis, who was recently killed, and for
for all the people surrounding this incident that happened. Thank you.
Any other prayers? Anyone wants to?
Yes. Hi, I'm Marilyn. I have a prayer.
Okay.
I'd like to ask a prayer for my partner Judith's daughter and son. Just moved into with each other yesterday. We've been struggling with Maggie, and she's having a hard time getting her life together. And so the next step was to have Whitman and Maggie move in together. This was Whitman's idea, which I'm just so proud of him. And so they moved in, and so far so good. We could use your prayers in that they make their living together works out well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, I'd like to mention my friend Jackie, who has had many major surgeries and another one tomorrow.
Anybody else? Good. Okay, and just a friendly reminder, you guys can also submit prayers online on the Althea website. We turn it over to Miss Ginny for all the exciting announcements.
All right. I love a soundtrack, but I think I'd pick something a little peppier than that, right? So good morning, I'm Jenny, and happy to be here, and part of the team that brings you a different Sunday every Sunday. Imagine that. So I want to say one more round of applause for Elzia Sekou. Thank you for taking us into the cave and taking us out of the cave, which is important. And that brings me to who else is coming up for the month of February as far as speakers. We have the amazing Christine Renee Monks, who is going to talk to us about, let me get this right because it's a great title, I'll have what she's having, what's waiting for you when you follow your heart. Also in February we have someone that you know, I believe, Christina Long-Jones. Elzia, Christina Long-Jones, yes, she's a buddy of yours. She's going to be with us. Robert Brzezinski is going to be speaking for us. And Liliana Barr is going to talk about attaining personal sovereignty. So we get to take over everything if we do that, apparently. So many things go on at Althea besides just Sunday service. So today, if you do have a prayer that you would like to be led through what we call affirmative prayer, a one-on-one experience, that will happen right behind this wall immediately after services. What also happens is an amazing lunch in our dining room. So especially if you're new, if this is your first Sunday with us, it's on us. So please stay and have lunch on us. Everyone else, join us as well. And then around 12:30, Elzia will be taking everyone through what's called a deep dive. So for those who want to get into kind of a smaller group, again, behind this wall in the historic library, we will go deeper into the subject of the cave, and he will lead a facilitated discussion for folks who want to stick around. So again, around 12:30-ish, might be a little earlier because I think we're going to wrap up a little bit early today. So that's what's happening. And then there is, with the wonderful Matthew Quigley, yoga today at 2 p.m. So stick around. Now that yoga is sort of what we call restorative. He plays this music, it's very chill. We also have another type of yoga that happens on Thursdays, I believe it is. Let me double check. Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. right here, integrative yoga with Linda. It's going to be a little more energetic. $25 drop-in for that, and it's an hour and 15 minutes of yoga. And then every Thursday, if you're still in that cave a little bit and like Zoom, you can join us via Zoom for a Thursday discussion that happens from 11 to 12:30 p.m. And that is led by Kathy Humphreys. Is Kathy here today? No, I don't see her. But anyway, she leads that every Thursday. It's a different discussion every Thursday. And again, you don't even have to leave the comfort of your home. You can just Zoom on in. A couple of other announcements. It is out there in the world that we are seeking our next spiritual leader, aka spiritual director, aka minister in some faiths it is called. So that is on our website. There's a job description. Please spread it far and wide. We are looking for that perfectly imperfect person to lead Althea into its next phase. So that is huge news. And I believe that is most of everything. Anything else that I'm forgetting? Those folks in the know? Anybody? Last call? All right. Well, thank you so much. And I'll turn it over to song leader Daryl.
Thank you. Good morning. Well, the song today is all about coming out of the cave and seeing the light. So please stay as you're able and join me in morning as perfect. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, strong in completeness, where his feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, even so praise revelation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. Thank you so much. And now we'd like to invite Bob Burpa up to send us on our way.
Okie doke. Ready to shout it out?
Yeah.
Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
I feel my courage.
I feel my courage.
To step out of the cave.
Step out of the cave.
I trust the process.
I trust the process.
I know it.
I know it.
I feel it.
I feel it.
And I am it.
I am it.
And so it